It's your beer. You created it. How do you make it better? How do you make it again? You can get the same ingredients, but do you have the same water? Can you improve the water to improve the flavor? The answer is the BrewLab, the tool to help you improve and maintain batch to batch of great tasting beer. Over the past 20 years, a brewing renaissance in the U.S. has enabled close to 1 million home brewers the opportunity to create new styles and attempt to copy traditional styles. Since beer is over 90% water, it makes sense that the water affects flavor as much as any other ingredient used. Just like the weather, water sources tend to change from one month to the next. This is especially true with well water. Some polished water is fine for drinking, but may be so clean that it lacks vital minerals which can severely affect the flavor of your beer. Let's take a look at several key factors in water that affect flavor, starting with hardness. Water hardness is a brewer's friend because calcium and magnesium are important ions in many biochemical reactions during mashing and fermentation. The BrewLab can measure these parameters quickly and easily. Alkalinity is generally a problem in brewing water. Alkalinity is the carbonate and bicarbonate content of the water and acts to raise the pH of the mash and beer. Water hardness can offset the alkalinity, and for that reason both parameters are typically measured as calcium carbonate in order to determine the net effect. The BrewLab enables the brewer to quickly determine the residual alkalinity and its effect on pH. Sulfate and chloride ions in water affect the flavor balance of the beer, from hoppy to malty. The sulfate ion acts to accentuate the hoppiness and dryness of the beer, making it more crisp tasting. Craft brewers often add calcium sulfate to their brewing water for pale ales and IPAs. The chloride ion acts to bring out the sweetness and fullness of the malt flavor, much like table salt does for food. Craft brewers often add calcium chloride to brewing water for Pilsner and other lagers. The BrewLab allows the brewer to test both of these parameters and plan salt additions to season the beer. Sodium acts in concert with chloride to enhance the sweetness and fullness of the malt. Sodium is ubiquitous in water supplies and mineral additions, so it is important for the brewer to know how much the water has before any treatments are planned. Sodium can be easily determined by calculation from the results of the other tests. The chemistry of brewing and cooking is complex, and while knowing the mineral content of the water is a critical first step to predicting the impact of the water to the beer, the best way is to measure it, and that is where pH comes into the picture. The mineral content of the water directly affects the pH of the mash, and the pH of the mash affects the entire brewing process, both in process performance and beer flavor. In order to consistently brew great beer, the pH of the mash, wort, and beer should be monitored at every step. The Tracer pH meter is a high-quality meter with an easy-to-clean flat sensor that allows the brewer to quickly measure very shallow samples. The meter is accurate to plus or minus 1/100th pH, allowing the brewer to measure the pH of the mash and wort in the tenths place with total confidence. You can easily see that your pH is closer to 5.3 than 5.4 or 5.2. The LaMotte BrewLab and BrewLab Plus, part of the LaMotte family of easy-to-use practical brewing products for the home and professional brewer.